I'm Ross Lipman, co-curator of the American Neorealism series, and welcome to tonight's screening of Shirley Clarke's The Cool World and Michael Romer's Nothing But a Man. I'm very pleased to announce that very unexpectedly, we are going to be having a special guest after the first film. For those of you who don't know him, Robert Young, the cinematographer for Nothing But a Man, as well as the co-writer and co-producer, is in the audience with us. He's 95. Robert, would you mind raising your hand? He's going to be joining my co-curator, Paul Malcolm, in a conversation that will be taking place. We're going to have a short break after the Shirley Clarke film, and then they will come up for Q&A, and then we'll watch Nothing But a Man. And if you have not seen Nothing But a Man, this is a truly extraordinary work. And Robert Young has just had such an illustrious career, including, of course, Nothing But a Man, but also many other works. A lesser-known one, but quite interesting, is a teleplay that he did called J.T., which UCLA also preserved. But some of you will, of course, know him as the director of Alambrista and of Ballad of Gregorio Cortez and many other works. So it should be it's walking film history tonight.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I was a friend of Shirley Clarke.
And he's a friend of Shirley Clarke.
5 years. I'm 95. She would now be 100.
Yeah.
She was a great friend. Very wonderful person. So I just mentioned that. I wish you were here.
Thank you so much, and we're going to look forward to hearing more stories from you very shortly. Also, I'm very pleased to announce that we now more or less have confirmation that for tomorrow night's screening of Killer of Sheep and Bless Their Little Hearts, we are going to have Charles Burnett in person for a Q&A tomorrow night. So please come to that. And then coming up next week, I'm just going to announce a few of the screenings. We're going to be having UCLA's, The Killer of Sheep is, of course, in the restored UCLA 35mm prints, both as is Bless Their Little Hearts, as well as The Exiles on Thursday in a beautiful restoration, and then the Academy's beautiful 35mm print of The Savage Eye that same night. On Friday, we'll be having the restored print of John Cassavetes' Shadows, as well as Lionel Rogerson's On the Bowery. And then for those of you seeking escape from Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to be having a heavy look at drug addiction in a double feature of, seriously, these are wonderful films, really intense films. If you didn't get depressed enough at last night's screening of Wanda and the Visitors, definitely come out on Super Bowl Sunday for Dusty and Sweets McGee by Floyd Mutrux and Jerry Schatzberg's Panic in Needle Park. So it's a really exciting program that we've got coming up, and that's all just in the next week. The Cool World is Shirley Clarke's second feature. For her follow-up to The Connection, which was originally based on a stage play, Clarke again looked to the theater. The Cool World was first a novel by Warren Miller and then a stage play by Miller and Robert Rossen, which played in Philadelphia and then Broadway's Eugene O'Neill Theater in 1960. Now, the days when anything remotely like that could play on Broadway are long gone, but thankfully the film remains. If The Connection was in part a response to cinema verite, The Cool World is very much Clarke's dive into neorealist techniques. Filmed in the streets with actual gang members, it has a grittiness that was quite different from The Connection. Clarke's partner, Carl Lee, appears in the film and also helped closely in the making. The great jazz score is by Mal Waldron with the Dizzy Gillespie Ensemble. It also represents the first film work of the great Frederick Wiseman, who produced 4 years before his directorial debut in Titicut Follies. Berkeley scholar and historian Albert Johnson called The Cool World the best film ever made about American Negro life in Harlem, and almost prophetic in its implications. The print we'll see tonight was restored by the Library of Congress, as was the print of Nothing But a Man. And anyway, that's all I have to tell you tonight, because I want to just get right into our wonderful program. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. My wife is here, Lily. Thank you. I married a young woman because I'm 95. So, anyway, forgive me. I'm speaking right now because I was affected by the film. I also was I was a friend of, I was close with Shirley. And before she shot anything, we had just been making documentaries. And actually, one of my partners was a cousin to Shirley. And in fact, I'm not saying affected us, or please, I had nothing to do with this. But I'm saying that we were affected at that period of the kind of films that we were making, and affected by the Italian films. And I just also never wanted everything to tell everybody what it is. That's why I was affected hard to me. Well, I also mentioned this, that I had forgive me talking about myself. I hate not to do this, but I can't help it. That I had a stroke around 5 years ago, and I was like dead, and I came back myself. And I'm just now finishing. I've written 3 other scripts, but I'm also affected tremendously by this, and I'm trying to. That is the way I'm going to try to shoot the same thing, because I've made another film, if any of you saw it, called Alambrista, about a Mexican coming to the United States. But Paul is a very generous person, and he should stop me any time. And also my wife.
I'm never going to do that.
Please go ahead.
No, but that's a really great. One of the things you had just mentioned in Seeing the Cruel World, and it's in the Cruel World. Well, one of the things that you had mentioned in Seeing the Cruel World again, just now, and what connects the two films is both films were made about African American communities by white directors. But you talked about you are not a fan of films made by outsiders. It was part of your philosophy in your working with Romer was to try and get to know, to become embedded or deeply sort of connected to this community before you shot the film. Can you talk a little bit about how that philosophy played into the shooting of Nothing But a Man?
Okay, very much. Also, maybe just in 1 second of talking about my partners, as Mike Romer, who's a very smart, wonderful guy, and we made this together. But we had different connections, and different experiences, obviously, because he's about 3-4 years younger than mine. And so he was during the 30s in Germany. He left, and there was a place they called it the trains that bring out children so stuff would not get killed. And he went to England in the 30s, and then he had school there. And forgive me, I'm talking in such a way that it's affected so much to see this film, because I think it's brilliant, and it's so different to be able to do something that jump into something and put the situations that you have the idea underneath and be able to put yourself so you bring it as an experience. And that's what I'm trying to do, is always not to, yes, I write things, but it has to be experiencing. So the fact I started making documentaries and jumping around, if you can understand me, and at that time, my father was a cameraman, and so this is he wanted to make his own films, and my dad made it into finally a laboratory, because he didn't make enough money to live. My dad was a wonderful person, open, and so I had a camera when I was a kid, a little, and then you wind them up, and that's what I started shooting. And so I was affected by Dad and the world. And also, my family came from a theatrical kind of thing. My uncle was a singer, wrote music, Joe Young, a lot of famous songs. And so all of this has affected you and so anyway, I started shooting my dad talked me into go wants me to be a chemical engineer because he had made a laboratory, and so I was 15 when I was chosen to go to MIT, and I wait for a year, so I'm 16 years old. It actually brings me back right now because I was the end of my graduated, that they asked me to make a speech at the end of the audience and the kids, and I had a cow. They told me to stay and I would tell the story, but I never could write it or think about it, and I stood in front of here like this in front of a couple of 100,000 people, and then I couldn't say a word, and I finally walked away. So that's probably the way I feel right now. I'm full of things that I've experienced. But I should bring it back. Other words, I jump all over the place. My wife is looking at me, I'm sure. Okay. And I'll try to make this not too far, and you could stop any time. But one of the things that I started making things, and when I was literatures. I mean, I love stories and good writer, linking. I mean, so even a kid. I was a very young kid reading and thought about things. So I went out to go at 16. I was to go MIT, and wasn't good for me. And after the wall started, a year and a half, I said I'm going to live in the world, and I'm not. I have so important things are happening, big things, that I have to be a part of it. So I went to the Navy and I went to the Police Pacific during the war, and I became an observer with films and all kinds of stuff like that. But I didn't like the violence that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of things because I've been to wars. And so it's hard to believe that I'm still 95. I don't understand it. But I move on to make films, and so I left after that period. I went to Harvard, lucky. I went for 3 years, and it was thought about a lot of things, and so But during the war, when I was in New Guinea, I was affected very much by a place where the Native people who were living right around us. And I became friends with a little boy, only about 12 years old. His name was Johannes, and there was a German priest who was teaching children. And so I became interested with her. But around my group was a lot of them Southern people, and a lot of people who didn't like this little boy, Johannes, his name was, who would affect me. And at the same time, and it's about our country, because at that point in the Navy, the black people were working the mess with the people. There was no one officer. They were just working for other people, but not able to get the recognition of who they really were. So I used to sometimes friends with these guys, black guys, who they would love to take pictures of me, themselves rather, next to, I was in by bombers. Mm-hmm. And so I would get ice cream and stuff, and I get to know these guys. And I saw that their lives, and I started writing my own stories about with a prejudice. That's affected me. Anyway, so I'm going to jump forward.
No, it's okay. That's fascinating because, I mean, I knew about Michael Romer's sort of experience as an emigre from World War II from Europe, but I hadn't heard more about your experiences in World War II. and how both of those different experiences that you had with the
Yes.
world that was going on. When you and Michael met at Harvard,
Yes, we met it.
how did you start? How did you recognize in each other a possible collaborator?
Well, Mike was very different than me, obviously. Fortunately, he doesn't. He's smarter than me, but while at Harvard, this is just after the war, that he'd made a film that was a comedy, and became actually on Life magazine as the best film of the year. It was really the joke in a way to the writer of Life magazine, but it was an interesting film, and it was very powerful. I'm not powerful, but it was connection with the Open and at Harvard, at Cambridge, and anyway, so. Sometimes I have stops because I had this stroke thing, but so I came back. I was one of the cameramen to make that, and that's how I became friends with Mike. And Mike went the direction to make documentary films. I did the same thing, but not separately, but we kept in touch. That's about it. And then I made a lot of, I moved about into living people. I lived with Eskimos, one of the last ones that the group that in the Arctic. I lived at 60 below zero one winter, and fortunately I got some recognition on some of these kind of things. So then, and I lived in a lot of places. You won't believe it for me, but I've been very fortunately, and I never get killed. I've almost died a lot of times, but I've been very fortunately. Anyway, I should tell you that, so there was a thing that, this is ironic now. Forgive me, I'm saying some things that are actually deeper than much that I have to say, but experiences that you find about what's going on right now with Trump and all this stuff. This is all connected. That's why I'm a filmmaker. That's what I want to make films, but it has to be big ideas, not just make some little thing that's not about. And I thought these little things that I just see now, which affected me so much, is where the big things that you understand. The way these little people who right in front of you, the camera's close, and you see what the life is really in. And that's what I find this earlier. I went, for example, I saw a film that in Florida, a place called Marine Studios, and they had big place to big animals and all that stuff like that. And I was tremendously interested in it, but I saw that they wanted to make films about it, and I saw they would take pictures in front of a little a place to, how do you say a club, how do you say it, just a few people this big with glass and inside
like a tank.
Okay. So they would make it with a background, you see it, so it's only go so far. And I went there and I said, I want to make these films in the sea, but not in a little tank. That's the word, a tank.
Right.
And I said, I want to be involved in something bigger that means something. And so anyway, I built a town behind them.
Right.
It's 25 feet behind them. And so the world could not be seen clearly. Okay, and that is the things that affect you on all of these things. And that is the film that you just watched now. You were very close to people, and yet inside is something much bigger. And when I lived I have 5 years making films about the sea, and I find inside the sea, I went close, but at the same time, you could see that I found out, because you have to understand things, that what's cold, the different connect temperature,
Temperature, sure.
is the different animals are in a different place.
Right.
And the thing that's happening them is the feeling. And then finally you bring it all of the you don't even see it, because then all of a sudden it hits of the rife, the sea, and then it makes something happen.
Right.
And that is the way you have ideas of see things that are close, and you get to understand something, and then you really understand that something is much bigger about the things that affected you.
And that's one of the most extraordinary things about Nothing But a Man, because one of the things that makes it neorealist in my mind is the way we're seeing the story of a single individual, Duff and Josie, individuals, and their struggle to just start a life together. But in their individual lives, we see very subtly, very powerfully, a whole social and economic history that has been, I mean, Ivan's, there's his future. I don't want to give anything away, but we see his future and his past figured in his family structure, that each one suggests this bigger, larger social, cultural, and economic history that has been pounding down on him for generations, literally for generations.
Right. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And that's why you have to go something to understand something closely and the life of people without tell them who they are.
And did that, so we have a few more minutes, but so did a lot of that finding the big picture and the little picture emerge from those 3 months of research you did with Michael in the South before
that's
the
how we
film?
did that.
And, yeah.
Okay, just quickly, I'll try to, if you don't put up me, I've been making a lot of documentaries trying to understand something, but each time it has to be trying, what is the bigger thing that's going? So the people in, and forgive me saying something that's ironic. For example, I got asked to go because they saw my work of documentaries. And the head of at NBC, actually, the people making up the white papers, okay, they God, it affects me, all this, so to see this stuff, but they because there was a problem on TV called 64,000 remember that thing?
The game show, 64?
There was a program that was very the people was affected. People liked it, but it was the where people would tell how much explain something or what was and the people and the characters were also chosen from the producers. From NBC, they made, it was not true, in other words. These people were telling you what they were, but some of it was not true. And so they had to make something really valuable to the audience, to people, to make something public things that are important, okay? To cover the fact that they made this bad thing. Now,
the documentary
I'm making
news
something
programs,
about us, about the United States, and about people myself. People they cover up right now at Trump and all this going on, and what is underneath is much deeper. And the thing that's happening, who really are. And these are affected the same way when I went on a reef and I see which corals are, and some at a different level than the other people really are. And that's what's happening right now in the world. And so anyway, so they chose me, so they had to make something like white paper with something neat, that was important.
That was a sort of a news show.
That's what's happening, right? They tell you what is true and what is important. So I go there, but they chose me. They saw some of my films with the Eskimos and all kinds of stuff like that. So I said, we want you. I said they got the one on white paper already. And so I said, well, I can't sign for NBC. I want to work with you, but I can't agree to do something without I can't believe it. Okay, so this is the truth. So I never made a contract or anything like this. So I made this. They said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I've been affected by this piece about people who are black people. And once it happened, I've seen people with in my war and since, and this is what I want to make a film about it. And I know right now in Tennessee, close to, next to Mississippi and close to Memphis, I said, I want to go there because right there, the black people are trying to vote for the primary first for white people. Mm-hmm. And this is 1960.
Right.
So I said, that's where I want to go. I'll try to make quickly. So I go there. They said, okay, we'll do it. And it actually paid me more money than I ever in my life. And I'd never signed a contract though. So because I've said unless we make this film and then it's over, then I open, if there's a new thing, great, but I move on. So anyway, that's what had. I went to Mississippi, out to near Memphis, to Tennessee, and I see what's happened. And I should stop now, I think, because it'll tell you to turn back with Mike and back to this one. Because when I go to Tennessee, I find out that the people, black people, are farmers could not get their money from the bank and all of that kind of stuff because they're not going to, nobody from a black person is going to go in a white primary. At that time, 1960, and the black people talked to me and they said, you cannot leave, go to a restaurant because you're going to put some arsenic in your thing. Mm-hmm. So I found this around. This was happening. I was by myself. And I wanted to go to see what's happening with these people. And so I go in this guy and his house in front of it, someone plowed in front so nobody could shoot at him because when they were, because of that. So they said, I have to be careful. So I said, the best thing I better do, I'm going to go to the sheriff because I'll let them know who I am. And so I go there, and I'll never forget this, and this is really end my thing because I could go back and keep you from too long. So I go to the sheriff, knock in, I come in, and on the next to me is a guy leaning back against the wall and a poster. I'll never forget it. It was Earl Warren. Mm-hmm. The same as now.
Right.
What do you say the word?
Imprisoned?
What's happening? Trump.
Oh, impeached.
Impeach.
Right.
Impeach
Earl Warren.
And this is the chief of the suburban.
Yeah.
So, and I look at the other guy is on desk and sitting down behind it with his boots are down on the desk, and he's big. Forgive me, it looked like it's from a movie, He was sort of sitting there, and his boots and a gun was right there. So I said, I'm here. My name is Bob Young, and I'm here for NBC because what's happening will happen in this Tennessee, and I'd like him to film about this. He leans back and he look at me. So you're one of those liberal Jews who are here. And I said, yeah, that's who I am. And I want to start with you with the first interview.
Well, I think there's a lot
Anyway, not so long. I stayed there for a number of days. It was obviously I couldn't bring a crew. Mm-hmm. And somebody challenged me. I won't go through that part now. They said if still sun doesn't down, you're finished, and you'll never be here. A big man, and he never even looked at me because he saw me walking out from the shack that I was coming with my black friend. He came down, and that's what he said to me, and he never looked at me. And he said, obviously, I'm not going to. So I couldn't make a film there. And that's why I said, At that point, I don't want to just be involved in violence. For me, I don't want to get killed, and I don't want to tell about, the most important is to tell stories like this and bring back, understand something, and do something about doing about it. So I saw the sit down was around that way. And so I saw that's the place I'm going to go in Nashville. And I go there, and that's where I find, like John Lewis.
Right.
He was 20 years old. I'm sure everybody must know John Lewis. And I became, I wouldn't say great friends or anything like that, but I made a film about that, and it won the Peabody and all that kind of stuff like that. So that made for me, so I said to my head of NBC, because they said, well, you make these great films and all this. Forgive me if they said that, but they said that, and they said, but I said, but I want to stay in the South because that's important for me. Right. He said, well, we did this now. Right. And sit in. Right. So after that, I thought, what am I going to do? So I've seen these great people in the sit-in people, black people and white people too, who stood up to fight for things that mean something. And then I said, well, I'll tell you what I could do. I know you needed something that's going to be excitement for the film. At the same time, and as what's happening in the United States, in the world, is 1920. I mean, 1960. And he said, what's happening all over the world and in Africa is the freedom of countries where everybody taken from the Europeans from them. Right. I said, well, I want to go there. And it turns that they said, you can't go there. And I said, well, I'm a Boy Scout. I can go into the jungle and do anything. So anyway, the Portuguese would not allow me to go to Angola.
We do need to. I'm sorry. We do.
So
I'm
that's,
sorry.
that's the end of this. I'll stop. Otherwise,
I totally don't mean to cut you off, but we do have to move on.
No, you're right.
But I do want to. I do want to say that the sense of wanting to be somewhere, and the sense of wanting to be somewhere and tell a story that's.
The last one. Tell this last thing then. Go and make a film the way I should write things, and I make a film for.
Oh, can you speak into the mic? What? Can you speak into the mic? The mic.
Oh, the first thing I'll tell, the last thing, so you can finish. So I made Angola, and I involved all this, another war, and I see people get killed and all kinds of stuff. So then I said, well, I want to play my own way of things, right, making things. And that's, instead of making a film about on the one hand and the other hand, and people telling me who they really are, I want to find who they are. So I said, well, I just read a book by a man, I can't even say it right now, but the lives of people in Sicily. And I saw these people it was amazing, just like this film that I've seen now, which Shirley did, this better than my film. This is marvelous. Anyway, so I said, I'm going to make a film like that. And NBC, they were not going to do it, but they allowed somebody got sick. And I won't go into the whole story, but I said I'm going to do it. And I did it, and I went in Sicily, and I lived at this place, which is the mafia and everybody helping, making my film. And it was, but at the end, the NBC, forgive me, they were very nice to me, so I don't want to put them down in that way at all. But I'm saying because there are great things they've done. But also, they said it was too powerful. Just like this. They said it's too powerful and for NBC, and we can't. And I said, well, I'm gone. And that was the end of I made 4 of the 8 of the first NBC white paper. And then I said, bring Mike. I was going, when I got the opportunity to do that thing, to make this in Sicily, I had to have somebody helping with me. And there was my friend, Mike, who was working for making documentaries. And that's when he came to me, and we said, work together. And he almost didn't come. And at the end, I said, well, you have to come. And he came anyway. And we made in this film with Sicily, And it was and they said that it's too powerful and it's not going to do this happening. So that's the end of this. And I said, well, we're going to make our own film. And we were full of that, and even Mike understand it, but he was not there when they made Sit-In. But that was, I said, we've seen all of these beautiful people who wanted freedom. They wanted to express themselves, who they were. And so that is when I said to Mike, and I said, let's make our own film. But we don't. How are we going to do that? We don't have money. How is it to make a film about a feature? So I said, well, we're going to find it. And my dad, another person, I raised $15,000, and in Mike's house, Malk on a car, his car, and we drove from there all the way down to New Orleans, and that's while we wrote Nothing But a Man. We experienced with other people, and they packed it, one people to the next one, black people to another one, to another, and we talked and we thought about it, and then finally we wrote it. But then, how are we going to make the raise the money? We couldn't get it from any studios or anybody like that, and so we gave we have now we have Nothing But a Man. We've written already, and it's so we raised some friends, and that's how we made this, and we raised fine 19. Anyway, I won't go into all of this. It's too much, but the important is we made the film, and. And we opened it and played around, and that's it. And I went from that. I'm not going to talk anything more about myself because that's what happened. A lot of things happened after that.
But I think that's a good place for us to leave it.
Yeah, good thing. I'm sorry
if
I talked too much there.
No. I'm sorry that we don't have. I'm sorry that we don't have more time because I'm sorry that we don't have more time.
No.
Because I feel like we could hear more.
My hearing is also very bad.
But I do want
diving.
I do want to let you know that it's an incredible honor to have you here. So thank you very much for coming out for us.
I appreciate it.